Joining me now is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel, Josh Hammer. Josh, today President Joe Biden lashed out at the Supreme Court decision granting immunity for official acts. He called the 6-3 decision a terrible disservice to the people of America and a dangerous precedent. The newly spray-tanned Joe Biden spent under 5 minutes reading a prepared statement from a pair of teleprompters.
Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
He then refused to take any questions before walking away.
Why are the best Democrats to beat Trump?
What did you make of that? It was quite an astonishing attack against the Supreme Court. Some very strong statements made there, but again, not willing to answer any questions, not willing to deviate from that prepared statement.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, he did himself absolutely no favors with that appearance right there. He did not quell any of the doubts that are mounting, not just among conservatives, but among Democrats as well. You know, the poll that we saw over the weekend, Rita, was that 72% of Americans say that Joe Biden does not have the cognitive ability to serve a second term. Frankly, I see that poll and I say, who the heck are the 28%? I mean, did they watch the same debate that I watched last Thursday evening here in the United States? This man is obviously palpably senile. It's sad, honestly, on a human being level. It's frankly just quite sad. But when it comes to the specific merits of the Trump immunity case, which is a victory for Donald Trump, it definitely is a victory. It's not an absolute victory, but it is the best possible outcome of all the plausible scenarios for Donald Trump there. It's very important to understand what the court did. There has been so much lying and fabrication here in American liberal media. They're saying that the Supreme Court has allowed a president to get away with bloody murder. Well, no, they actually really haven't. They very clearly said that unofficial acts that have nothing to do with your core constitutional prerogative can get prosecuted after you are president. But even more to the point, Rita, this line that we hear from Sonia Sotomayor, the liberal justice who dissented, this line that we hear from Joe Biden right there, they say over and over again, no one is above the law. No president is above the law. Well, do you know what the supreme law of the land here is in the United States? It's the Constitution. It literally says that in Article 6. It's called the Supremacy Clause. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And if the Constitution requires some level of immunity from prosecution so that the executive can do his job, then that is the law. That is the law. So no president is above the Constitution. That doesn't mean we know what the Constitution is. So the whole thing is just absolutely crazy. But Joe Biden is out to lunch as always. The only question now, obviously, is whether he's going to be forced out of this presidential race.
It is so absurd and so simplistic to say no one's above the law. The president has powers that others don't have. He can declassify documents. He can pardon people for whatever reason he chooses. So this notion that the presidency is no different to any other person, I mean, it's just simplistic. But what's the latest on these efforts to replace Joe Biden before the November poll? With your legal background, you know better than most the limitations of what the Democrats can do here. What are the chances that we're going to get a new candidate?
So I think the chances are pretty low. Now, the logistics of them swapping out Joe Biden at this point are very, very difficult. So you actually had So here in America, we have the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, which controls or rather executes the campaign finance laws in this country. I'm actually interviewing on my show, the Josh Hammer Show, one of the FEC commissioners tomorrow. And the same commissioner, Trey Traynor, who I'm interviewing, he actually wrote an op-ed for the Daily Caller on Friday, basically saying that the logistics at this late hour of pulling a candidate swap from a campaign finance perspective are very, very difficult because people who have donated to the Biden-Harris campaign, they have donated to the Biden-Harris campaign. They have not donated to a generic Democratic Party slush fund. So if you pull Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that money either then gets reverted to the DNC, the Democrat National Convention, or just gets returned to the donors. So if Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, or God help us, Michelle Obama, if one of them were to step in, they'd essentially be starting from scratch from a fundraising perspective. Now, Kamala Harris is the one person in the country who could possibly obviate those concerns because you could do that while assuaging those fundraising concerns. The problem with Kamala Harris, Rita, as you know, is that she's less popular than venereal disease. I mean, she's just an absolutely horrific politician. No one particularly likes her leadership. People leave her office, they leak like a sieve to the mainstream media about what a terrible boss she is. So they're not going to do it. So I am increasingly convinced that Joe Biden actually is here to stay. And again, God help us, because it's not a pretty sight.
You're right about Kamala Harris. She's just floundering. We played some footage of her earlier and it was cringe-worthy. But in an effort to recover from that debate disaster, we saw the White House release this 33-second video I'm about to play you. God knows how many takes it took. There's around 9 jump cuts just in this 33 seconds.
Democracy is the essence of who we are. We're the most unique nation in the world in that we're not united based on race, ethnicity, geography. We're based on idea. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all women and men are created equal. It's in our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. They're the two things that are the guardrails to make sure democracy is able to be sustained. It's all about being able to show up and vote, be able to have an opportunity to get a fair deal, get an even chance. It all rests upon our Constitution, and democracy is the vehicle and the method that holds that together.
Josh, does that fill you with confidence?
I mean, so I actually have not seen that video. That's my first time seeing it. I mean, the man looks like he's about to keel over and die. And I don't say that with any kind of joy. I mean, this is the commander-in-chief of the United States military. This is the guy whose finger is on the nuclear football. This is the guy who ostensibly is preventing Xi Jinping from going into Taiwan and just seizing Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company. And this is the guy who ostensibly is going to prevent Vladimir Putin from going further into Europe and Iran from going further into Israel and the Middle East. And that's what he looks like, and that's what he talks like. I mean, it's just absolutely appalling. When I was watching that debate last Thursday evening, Reed, I couldn't get that thought about Xi Jinping and China out of my mind. All I was thinking about was that surely in real time, somewhere in Beijing, people very high up in the Chinese Communist Party Politburo are having these conversations about, let's seize Taiwan like now, or at least let's do it before November. Because when you have someone who literally looks like that, who exudes just such obvious senescence and physical and mental decline, what message does that send to everyone around the world? I mean, to say nothing of the American people who are suffering a grave crisis of morale as it is, but really the message to everyone around the world, foes, friends, allies, enemies, everyone, it's just awful. It's so sad.
It is, and I heard some commentary from very astute people who've served under multiple presidents about just how vulnerable the US is right now, because its enemies are looking on and they know they've got a short window of opportunity to do what they want to do under this weak, incoherent, lost Biden administration. And that just puts the country, and I think the world, at greater risk from the likes of China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, whoever our enemies are at the moment.